Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Ross Greer of the Green Party in Scotland is, I think, a bit of a dick. There's no other explanation. Just the other day, he announced £28 million worth of funding for schools, colleges and higher education, which then evaporated within hours because it hadn't been agreed, and the SNP eventually said, no, we can't afford it, we're not doing it. He was made to look a complete knob. But it isn't the first time, and it won't be the last time. Just last month, he tried blaming the delay on the bottle deposit scheme on Westminster, saying, oh, they're holding it back, they're not doing the paperwork for the internal market, he claimed. Although, to be fair, they didn't do the workings and all the paperwork for the internal market. But as they pointed out, nobody had officially asked them to do so. There'd been no official request from the Scottish Government for this to be presented to that particular committee. They can't work on things that they don't know about. So, he has got a history of being a complete sort of knob, but now he's come out and shown exactly what sort of person he is. He's had a bit of a tirade at fellow MSPs. He acts like a child. Oh, I blank them. I don't talk to them in corridors because, he's about 6 or something. And somehow this man has found himself enjoying the levels of power that are normally reserved for grown-ups. And yet here he is, proving to the world that when it comes to being a dick, the man is truly an expert. Let's have a look at this article. So, extremist Ross Greer shows true colours with foul-mouthed tirade at fellow MSPs. The Scottish Green MSP claims he blanks his horrible, bigoted rivals in the corridors at Holyrood and says the Greens have pushed the SNP to the extreme left of Scottish politics, which we all know they are truly Marxist now. But this, he calls these people horrible, bigoted rivals. What he means is people who fail to agree with his ridiculous views on every single occasion. He is absolutely full of it, which we're going to see, but he's also a bit of a moron. But look at him, he sits there and he's trying to project himself as being the wise one. You see him in the street, he's a nothing. He's an absolute nothing. Foul-mouthed Green MSP Ross Greer says other parties at Holyrood are full of dicks and claims he regularly shuns rivals because he finds them so unpleasant. What do you think these people think of him? Mr Greer also accused the Tories of not really giving two shits about gender recognition reforms. Well, if that's the case, and I don't want to defend the Tories, but if that is the case, then the Tories have got it right because they're on the same side as 99% of people around the world who don't give two shits about gender recognition reforms. It's only sad little non-entities like him who want to make their mark. Speaking on the Uni-Tribal or Untribal Politics podcast, the 28-year-old West Scotland MSP said there are some folk who enjoy revelling and being absolute dicks in the chamber and being absolute dicks on Twitter and saying horrible stuff, bigoted stuff. But then we think we can be dead chummy when we're speaking to each other in the corridors, the canteen, or the bar, or in the Commons, or in the committees. Now, the thing is that a lot of people, even from different sides of the political spectrum, do speak. There's always back channels between parties. Always has been, always will be, always needs to be. Otherwise, you drive to extremes, and that is what he is doing with his little childish antics of, oh, I'm not talking to you because you don't agree with me on every single thing because I'm like 8. That is what we are dealing with here. We are dealing with a very, very immature child who somehow managed to grow up and grow a tiny beard. He says, I won't stand there and argue with them or pick a fight with them. I'm not going to bother talking to them at all, because why would I? We have fundamentally different worldviews, and I find them to be deeply unpleasant. I find you to be deeply unpleasant, Mr. Greer, and I think that your policies are divisive, damaging, a direct threat to women and children. You endanger people with these views. My personal opinion of you is much, much lower than I can possibly say here on YouTube or voice on Twitter or Facebook. If I did it, I'd be off that particular platform in a second. He added that some MSPs have simply been using an issue that I think they personally couldn't give two shits about to stir up political division. Well, I'm sure that's you as well. Let's be honest, you see that from the Tories because whether it's Scotland or the UK wide, the Tories are really struggling their way down in the polls. He seems to be obsessed with them though, doesn't he? He seems to be very obsessed with the Tories here. If you're somebody who lacks decency, then you'd know all about that, wouldn't you, Mr. Greer, the man who wants to endanger children? Then it probably does look pretty attractive to stoke up the culture war stuff, because it's a way to get people really riled up, often by completely misrepresenting the issue at hand, which is exactly what we saw with the gender recognition reform. No, he doesn't like it. 99% of people disagree with him, and he's having a little cry. He probably wet his little panties, tosser. Mr. Greer, a member of the Church of Scotland, has caused controversy with previous outbursts. He accused Sir Winston Churchill of being a white supremacist mass murderer and said that he would like to see Buckingham Palace burnt to the ground. Well, that shows you the kind of person he is. He has no concept of history. He has no concept of context. And now he's proposing criminal damage and mass destruction because of his particularly nasty world view. What's Buckingham Palace done to you, Mr. Greer? Anyway, on the podcast, Greer boasted the Greens' power-sharing agreement with the SNP had given Scotland its most left-wing government ever, and just look at the damage it's doing to Scotland. He said, the SNP have allowed us to push them. That's not to say we can't go further. My job is to make sure we go further. And I would say that if Humza Yousaf had any kind of self-decency, self-respect, self-awareness, or even a spine, he would turn around to the Greens and say, you know what, enough's enough. There's the door. Fuck off. But he won't do that because he is a jellyfish. He is quivering, scared, a rabbit in the headlights, and he is quite incapable of showing any kind of leadership. In response, Scottish Conservative MSP Murdo Fraser said, Ross Greer clearly thinks he's still in the student union rather than being an elected MSP with this foul-mouthed tirade. His outburst flies in the face of nationalists like him talking about being part of a kinder style of politics. Not only are the Greens promoting their extremist views at the heart of government, it seems one of their MSPs has been waiting to share some extreme language on fellow members at Holyrood. He is an absolute dick. Now, he calls other people dicks, and I must admit, as I say, I bow to his superior knowledge when it comes to being a political dick. He is a world leader, and I shall come up. Ross Greer strikes me as the sort of person who was probably bullied at school, and now he's had a little bit of power and he's going to show those guys, you look, I don't care how many times you flushed my head down the toilet, I don't care how many times you punched me in the corridor, I've made it, I'm a success, I'm a winner, and you're nothing. Vindictive, small-minded, bigoted, hate-filled. There are a lot of ways of describing people like him, but him in particular. He sits there and he revels in the virtuousness of harming children. He proposes things that 99% of people would find abhorrent, and then thinks that they are the bigoted ones for refusing to believe it. He's got no empathy with people. He's probably a bit psychopathic. He doesn't want to talk to people who don't agree with everything he thinks. How very dare they have opposing opinions? It probably breaks his heart that so few people vote for the Greens, but then they are an extremist organisation made up of absolute losers and lunatics. We only have to see the things that the likes of Lorna Slater says and does. The ultimate hypocrisy. Chauffeur-driven cars and hiring private yachts, even though claiming that the rest of us need to get onto public transport. So you see, the Greens are not the party that can be trusted. None of them have won a constituency seat. All of them are there because of the lists system based on proportional representation. Unfortunately, you see, enough Scots have been convinced by these lunatics that they can vote for them and be self-righteous. With a bottle deposit scheme that will destroy jobs, with a gender recognition certificate that will destroy children, and with every other policy they've ever said and done being shown to be absolutely damaging in some form or another. They are lunatics. And then they produce nasty, bigoted, hate-filled little wankers like this. Oh well, you get what you vote for. Anyway, I shall finish there. Thank you very much for listening. If you like what you're seeing here on the channel, please hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and until next time, stay safe, stay well, never vote green. They're just absolute losers, and goodbye.